the root. Hello there, my name's Gary, and I've had quite a few comments and private messages from people about my approach to the theremin. I do a lot of improvisations, and I've got a technique which works for me. It's a very personal thing. I haven't had any lessons, and I've been playing the theremin as this tutorial, inverted commas, for about 3 and a bit years, or 3 years, several months. And so I thought I'd, as a part of a first lesson, I suppose, go through my approach to playing the theremin. And it's very much to do with, using your ears as opposed to learning a specific technique, particularly on the pitch side. So what this is not necessarily a lesson. I mean, I may structure it or at least chapterize it later, but it's definitely more about, my personal approach to playing the instrument. Obviously, this is the Etherwave Plus, an old Moog non-pitch assist instrument. I've got a Clarivox and a couple of little baby theremins as well, which I could use, but this is good just for teaching on, I suppose. The first key thing with any theremin is, setting it up, plugging it in, waiting 20 minutes or so for it to warm up, and then doing your pitch field adjustment. There's tons of stuff on that on the internet, so I'd encourage you to go and look at that. Because today I just want to go into really about the most important part of playing the theremin, which is the ear-brain, I think that's my brain, ear-brain hand connection. The way it works is that you play a note. I'll just have it sustained for the moment. You play a note, it comes out the speakers into your ear, the brain processes it, and then it makes adjustments to the hand. And that, is a big part of the learning process. I didn't, learn any hand techniques initially beyond just, really thinking of a comfortable hand position. So that's sort of a nice resting hand position. Sometimes I had my elbow straight, sometimes, but either way, you adjust, you adapt as well. So that's another thing I want to talk about today, is how to adapt your arm hand position depending on things like pitch field changes and so on. But we'll talk about that later. So the first sort of key thing is finding this natural hand position, and then just, moving it out. So you're changing, particularly these 3 fingers, changing these 3 fingers in terms of their proximity to the pitch antenna. So obviously you can do combinations of arm movement, keep the hand stationary, or within, I suppose, a root position, you can change your just your fingers, keeping the wrist in locked in position. I tend to do a mixture of both. When I'm changing positions, when I'm improvising, I'll often, move the root up into position, then do a range of movements with the fingers, then I'll move the root back. And the root may be on the 5th, it may be on the 4th even. And it's all about then the brain thinking about the steps, as in, is it a 2 semi-toned step, a tone, or is it a single step, a semitone? So, for example, from this position, if I want to do a tone, I just go up 2 steps. if I'm in a minor scale, I might go up half a step. So there's, if you think of that as the root of a minor scale, I go up 2 steps, back again. And early on in the learning, I was sliding between notes because that's one of the best ways to get the brain thinking about the pitch all the time. So rather than initially just trying to think of positions and then doing these sorts of things, I was actually, for the first year or so of learning, I was really in exercises learning to slide between the notes, and then eventually you start to learn the scales and the steps. So I'm often thinking about, regardless of the root position of the wrist, I'm thinking about, is it a full step tone or half a step semitone? And then you have to have some musical knowledge, of course, to be able to gauge where you are in the scale. Are you on the 5th? In which case, if you're in a minor key, for example, your first step's going to be half a step, a semitone, and things like that. So that's a sort of hand position. But like I said, the key thing is the brain making pitch assessments, and this is the key to playing any fretless instrument, I suppose. So I've got here on this camera a simple keyboard which I use called the Q Nexus, and this allows me to latch a note. So if I press this, it just plays a constant note, and I can keep them at the octaves. I can even do fifths. I could do whole chords if I wanted. And that allows me to, let's choose that note, put it down. Allows me now to do the pitch assessment training, if you like. So there's the theremin. Also make sure the theremin is not too loud that you drown out the drone. Oh, there's a song there, so I'm not drowning out the drone. So find the pitch of the drone, and then, for example, as one exercise, go up the octaves without changing the fingers necessarily. This, by the way, has had the ESP01 chip put in, so I can get these very low octaves. So I've actually got a sort of six octave range. Let's try it out. I could go lower actually. Well, let's start from there. This is a C, by the way, of course. 1 octave coming up. 1 octave, 2 octaves, 3 octaves, 4 octaves, 5 octaves, and I'm literally touching the antenna at that point. So that is definitely an important part of the initial exercises that I did back in the day. And now I'm, starting to use the fingers then, keep the wrist locked, and then do the octave on one, just the movement of the fingers. So it's the room I'm in is actually warming up at the moment, so even though I've waited 20 minutes as the room warms up, so I'm just going to change the pitch slightly, the pitch setting. And certainly in the early days as well, if I was not quite getting the notes, I'd often throw in a vibrato, which is a way of sort of covering up if the pitch was inaccurate, which is an interesting technique. Don't worry that if you do it, eventually you'll start to, getting rid of the wrinkles of rid of the vibrato wrinkles in your playing, you know, so it's on all the time, which is something you don't want. I'll just choose a lower drone note. And again, slide between the notes. So, and you know, keep practicing that, and eventually you'll get to learn the positions between the octaves. As soon as you've got the octaves, then you can start to look at the notes in between, of course, and you know, and so on, the scales. But one thing I do encourage is adaptation. So I've been playing a recording, and then over the length of the recording, which might be you know, sometimes 10-15 minutes, the pitch field has been contracting, which is kind of something you have to adapt to. It's like doing a live performance and all of a sudden you go, oh my god, the notes are getting closer together, or they're getting often further apart, so you have to adapt. So it's not something you can just sort of go, right, there's my octave and it's always going to be that way all the time. And even now it's changing. Then, you know, after you've done that, after you've sort of got comfortable with identifying the pitch, you can then start to look at the notes in between. And often, you know, it's best to think of a scale. I often use like a minor scale rather than a major. And again, sliding initially. And there's the half step. And hold a note as well, you know, so it starts to really be comfortable in your head as to where that is. So the fourth, and then the fifth. The fifth is easier because it sort of gels with the drone, the root rather. Let's go to the sixth. Back to the fifth. A little vibrato just to make it sound nicer. One thing you can do with the vibrato is, you know, hit the note first and then add the vibrato later. Let's go to the seventh. So the seventh was a bit out there, so, you know, practice it. Let's do 8-7-6. Do a semitone above, just to have a nice dissonant note. So that's a step, so that'll be a C sharp, C, B flat, A flat, G, F, E flat, D, back to the root. And then, of course, once you've done your basic scales over many weeks, months, you can start to think about arpeggios. See if you can do the, root, third, fifth octave. And again, sliding until you can step it. Another thing I'm keeping an eye on is my line with the antenna, because I'm sort of talking here and looking at various levels and things. My hand's slowly drifting over here, so you have to be careful. You're doing all these adjustments and your hand's moving away from the direct line, so that's one thing I always look out for. And here's an example of shifting into position. So I'm on the root there, the drone. If I move this onto the fifth position on the natural finger position here, I've then got to rethink, the scale. Sorry, because I'm talking, this pitch is going backwards and forwards. So we have to go half a step to the sixth. And now the octave is in the sort of middle finger position. And I can do the octave up to the higher fifth from this position, of course. And if I want to slide back to the root, I can, use my arm. And I do this a lot, position shifting, so that I can, cover different parts of a melodic idea. And now from that position, which is the octave, I could potentially do this, which I notice I do occasionally, which is to move the root into that position without changing the note. I am doing it here. And now I'm in the root, so now I've got another octave stretch. And I've actually gone up a third above the octave there. And you notice I'm just extending the arm in this position. Once you've got comfortable with the scale divisions within your octaves, then you can start to look at, specific exercises which are going to start to root your brain-hand coordination. So a good exercise is something like this. Always returning to the root after you've played a second note. And then choose a different note. Make adjustments as you play. I'm still getting warmed up. So again, the pitch field has changed because the room's warming up, so I've got to readjust the pitch field again for my benefit. So what I mean is that my octaves are now getting further and further apart, so I want to keep them roughly where I like them. And it's tiny adjustments. There we go. occasionally had to do that in the middle of recordings as well, and it's literally just a hairline adjustment. Which is why if you're playing professionally, make sure that the hall organisers are really going to keep the temperature constant, because you know, nothing worse than you're in the middle of a performance and all of a sudden your two-step positions and now you're having to do three-step positions. So it's super important to try and keep the ambient temperature pretty constant. Anyway, let's go back to that exercise. And reverse it if you feel the need. Of course, everyone plays Over the Rainbow when they, work out the octaves, which is one of the easiest things to do on a theremin. Once you've got this octave thing going, of course. Into a major scale. I just have a coughing fit. And it helps very much to have that drone in place as you're doing this, of course. If we take the drone off just temporarily, and you're playing solo, so to speak, a cappella. Oops, horrible. Add a bit of vibrato. So if you play that, if you think that's a C, you'll be surprised sometimes. You put the drone back on, I think that's a C there. So apart from the wobbling, just because I'm moving, you're not generally moving all your hands around while you're holding a pitch. But kind of what I was saying there is that sometimes your pitch in your brain will drift, so you'll be playing quite nicely all solo, and then you find that you're slowly getting sharp, or sometimes you're slowly getting flat, depending on how accurate you are. If you've got perfect pitch, sometimes that's a problem, a blessing and a curse, because you'll know where a pitch is, but you get so OCD about having notes that are slightly off that things get a bit chaotic. So those exercises are super useful. Also on the latch thing, if you've got a latch keyboard, it means that you just play a chord and it keeps it. You can start to think about improvisations, and this is one of my key things I like to do. So let's play let's do an A flat major 7 chord. So G, A flat, C, E, and now. And again, this is what I'd like to do even in the early days after I'd done a bunch of exercises, is just do an improvisation over that chord. I won't use the left hand much in this exercise thing. Obviously I didn't hit the note there, so I'm just playing around, and this is part of having a nice chord to play with like this. I'll go a bit higher in the register. So I'm slowly getting the feel of the chord. I wasn't quite sure where I started from there, so because it's an interesting major 7th chord. flat, I suppose. Back to the C. Let's just turn that latch chord off a second. So it's really, listening to the chord, listening to the notes that make up the chord, and then just, playing the notes that fit in with that. After a while, you can obviously start to add the volume and then the rhythm. So let's just go to a straight latched C minor, and then add in some volume and rhythm. Again, playing the scales at the start, just get a feel for the chord and the pitch feel, because as I said, it can change. So one thing I was doing there, I was doing occasional half slides when I didn't quite get the note, so just slowly pushing it into the note or pulling it back. And it allows you to literally just go anywhere within the pitch field, and you've got a chord like that, and just choose, just adjust on the fly. So let's, I don't know where I am in the scale necessarily, but let's just choose a note in the middle of nowhere. So that was microtonal in between two notes. That was what I was trying to get purposely. It was hard to do it otherwise. Minor adjustment. So again, I can just hit any note, and then from there, once I get a note in the scale or move it into the scale, then I can just carry on with my two-step, one-step thing. Any note again, let's have a low one. The pitch field is slightly expanded down here, so I was just echoing that melody I made up down here into the higher octave. But I suppose we're now getting into improvisational techniques and ideas, which is probably for another video. But again, back to the the drones, super important. One thing I like to do as well is practice dissonance. So thinking of just single steps all the time. Let's find that note. Let's go down half a step and create a lovely clash. And it's really good for brain, hand, ear training to understand those intervals and make them work. So a true, semitone clash like that. In fact, let's just take the left hand off so you can hear it better. So there, just going up a semitone from the C, up to the D, up to the E flat, up to the E natural, so that's a major third, back to the E flat, back to C, down the bottom here. Into a major scale. Notice when I was coming down the scale there, I was doing sort of these steps to feel my way to the next note, because I personally find it harder to go down than up. I can do lovely rises right up to the top, you know, but coming down the scale has always been a bit tricky. I'm still learning. Let's go to the high C. I mean, there is a theory, I suppose. You'd expect to go from a stretch position down the notes and then do a jump back to the stretch position down the notes, you know, then a jump back, you know, this will be the sort of logical way of doing it, but I tend to, as you saw there, do these sort of climb downs, like going down steps. So and look how contracted the pitch field is there. There's an octave in that space, and the next octave is that one, and so on and so on. So, you know, I personally find it easier in those very tight octaves, which some people don't. So there, back to the exercises, those step downs, super useful to do. So, hope that was useful. It's really just a taster of types of lessons I could do, I suppose. I can get much more specific in the exercises. But I think actually the next one I'll do, you know, in a few weeks probably, is going to be one specifically looking at the way I improvise. You know, the thinking in terms of given a piece that has chord changes, so I often play a piece on a keyboard or a guitar or a harp or something, and then, you know, that's improvised, just nice chords that sound good together, or crazy, you know, atonal type contemporary chords, and then I just improvise over it. For me, the important thing there is the structure of the piece. See you in a bit.